Hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of U of L women's athletics. We certainly have several items to discuss today of events that happened in the previous week, and we have a great house of four on board today to do that. Daryl will not be with us. Had some family obligations that she had to attend to today. But hey, we still got an all-star lineup in here with definitely Case and Jared and Jeff, and they even brought me along, Polly, as the bad boy. So we should have a lot of fun with this, guys. We had some fun events take place for sure this week, and as we like to do at the start of the show, we'll kind of introduce the fellows a little bit more and talk to them about things. In case this was a kind of a situation yesterday for a couple of our teams were close but no cigar in action.
Yeah. Softball got their season opened with a win, despite, I guess, their best efforts sometimes on defense. But they pick up a win in the opener, and then, unfortunately, the second game, not quite so great against the old Wildcats from Lexington. Um, why they had to travel collectively 1,000 miles or whatever to play each other instead of heading down the road, um, just because they wanted to get to clearer confines of better weather while they leave the rest of us up here in sub-freezing temperatures. Um, that is what it is, and like you said, close but no cigar for the lacrosse team, who has played Denver close in the last few years, but never really threatened to win. Like I said in the article, until yesterday, in which case they threatened to win for about 30 minutes and then stopped threatening to win.
I found Holly April's, I guess, game plan kind of interesting here, where she did not start Roby against the Wildcats yesterday, using her for the first game, and then going with one of the newer, well, not actually new. Gabby Holloway got the second game start, who's been around for a couple years, and then consequently got pounded. But kind of an interesting move, I think, by April here to say, okay, you're not going to see our best silver yet. We're going to bring out the dinnerware, and then we'll bring out the china later. But we'll see what happens later on against them. At least we know what to expect when we play them during the regular season, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not low if I'm looking forward to what to expect. But Jeff with us today. Jeff been, is going to a place that he's never been to before next week for some
I
business
wish.
trip. And are you going to wear a T-shirt that says "Hey 404"? I hear.
No, I got a conference that I'm headed to. Leave tomorrow. Flight's about noon, and then get down there. Conference actually starts Monday morning, but I get there, get registered, get in the hotel, and everything gets set up. So I'm kind of, I kind of call it girding my loins because I'm such an incredibly overly radically introverted that doing conferences is an exhausting event for me. Right. Um, it's pleasant. I enjoy them, but it's exhausting. So, kind of getting myself prepared for it. And I know, like when I get back, I'll be back Wednesday night, and I know Thursday I'm just going to be a zombie. So it's just the way it's going to be, and I'll make the best of it.
I remember in years
But
past when I used to have to attend the occasional conference. My first priority was to find out what room the party was in.
yeah, these
So,
these have no shortage of those. They're usually not room parties. They actually have like built into the conference schedule. They have big socials in the evening. So, um, Monday night is at a kind of like the place on 4th Street Live that has like bowling and stuff. A place kind of like that. And then Tuesday night is I think it's at like in the basement of the Hard Rock Cafe that is some sort of thing in Atlanta. So call it the Velvet Underground at Hard Rock Cafe. So
hmm,
yeah, so I don't
Well,
know.
they
So
knew that if they left it up to a bunch of network engineers to socialize, that there would be no
yeah,
socialization.
yeah, well, yeah. We actually, you know what? They actually did a pretty good job. Um, this is when you're self-selecting to go to a conference. I think you're self-selecting for the more socially oriented of geeks. We're all geeks.
Hmm.
We'll all admit to that. But yeah, I think we kind of self-select for the more social. There are going to be some people from Georgia Tech there, so that'll be fun.
Oh, maybe you'll get Nell Fortner.
Yeah,
And-
I mean, I'm sure it's people in Georgia Tech IT or whatever that are coming there doing their networking. But yeah, I'll try and
corner and say, "Why are you doing this with her?
yeah,
What's your problem, Nell?"
seek them out, give them some harassment. So
Show her some technical diagrams and stuff. No,
Yeah.
if you were doing this on this particular play, you'd be scoring 8.7 and 4.7. That's stuff.
yeah,
It sounds like fun, and I'm sure you and Nell will have a great time down there together. And
yeah. Big
you said
downtown
that-
hotel in Atlanta, and it's I've been in the hotel before. It's been a long time, but yeah,
Actually, the Velvet Underground was quite an interesting band back in the 60s.
Yeah.
and
yeah,
then
I'm
you
sure
got
it's named
back there
for
in
them.
Armin. Yeah,
Yeah,
they put out some pretty interesting
it's good
music.
stuff.
I
Yeah,
recommend
English
you
kind
all.
of
Yeah,
punk stuff. Yeah,
maybe a pre-punk kind of feel to it, but
Yeah.
whatever.
So these socials are always like sponsored by vendors, so there's no shortage of alcohol involved. So
Well, there you go.
yeah,
You find yourself riding up and down the elevator at 4 a.m. yelling at what floor you're at. The people.
I won't.
7.
Yeah,
We did that one night. But anyway,
yeah, it's a good way to get kicked out of the conference.
it's a very good way to get kicked out of the conference and the hotel.
Yeah.
They do not. I could tell an old story on a boss of mine, and I'll do it real quickly. But I went to meet him for the first time, and so I went to the hotel where he was staying at, and called his room, no answer. And then this little lady comes to the front desk. She goes, "I hate to tell you, sir, but your elevator man's asleep." She kind of looks at the little.
We don't have an elevator here.
What? He says, "We don't." So we go to the elevator, and I walked along, curious. And there's my boss curled up in the corner of the elevator in his little suit, sound asleep. He had obviously not made it out of the elevator to his room the night before.
Didn't Ray Stevens have a song about going to conferences like that?
I could only tell you there's been a few of them where I saw a fist fight break out over a fork full of steak one time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way things go here. But it sounds like fun. It sounds like an interesting time. One of the things that we're also looking at is an addition of home events now, Jared. Some things that we can be excited about. Adding to our schedule now, a little softball, a little lacrosse, more events to get at and watch.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for the spring sports. Obviously, I'm still enjoying women's basketball, and then men's basketball has been nothing but exciting this year for those following along. And I'm just ready to get back outdoors. I mean, it's better weather's coming along soon. Softball is one of my favorite sports to watch, so I really like getting out to Ulmer and watching them. So I get there down at Florida, but I'm ready for them to return home. Got to be out at lacrosse. A little chilly, could be worse, but it was nice to see some lacrosse because when you go 9-10 months break without watching the sport play, you're certainly eager to get back out there.
Jared, you made a statement about men's basketball earlier, and I think you should have ended your clause 2 words earlier. You said Louisville men's basketball has been nothing but exciting this year, and I think you meant to say men's basketball has been nothing this year.
That's true too. I don't think we even have a true men's basketball team.
An improper expansion on a statement.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder when Purvis Ellison comes out and says you guys made a mistake in hiring Kenny Payne, it makes you wonder about the state of the program. It's like, didn't you guys kind of know each other? Never mind.
Yeah, who needs the NCAA to get involved when you're giving yourself a self-imposed ban by winning 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want the NCAA involved in anything, in any athletic event, if you can help it. Okay, for them to dive into our men's basketball program right now would be the equivalent of sending in a squadron of tanks to attack Taylorsville. Okay,
I'm pretty sure that if the NCAA got involved, the program would just get better.
Oh yeah, they could probably take the program over and get us back to 500. Well, we got a couple of these commentators on the network show that would be great coaches for you down there. and a couple even still have eligibility. Let them play. It should be fun. As for me, I guess the best term to describe the week would be medical procedures. I've been going through several of those, several which aren't exactly the funnest ride to pick it on the midway, and it had me pretty well knocked out most of all yesterday. So I will warn in advance, I did not get a chance to watch any of the events that took place yesterday. So I'll be leaning on the guys here for their commentary and observations on it.
Uh-oh.
Yes, which means
Jeff, the person who was able to watch the softball games. the
Well,
only one.
only
Uh-oh.
sort of. I had the first one pulled up on my phone while I was working, so I really wasn't paying that close of attention to it. So.
I saw the score on the bloop error, so I can relay that play. And
Yeah.
that's about it.
Jared, dig a foxhole and dig in, pal, because you're going to be busy today. Jared reviews the entire sports spectrum of. But as we like to do here at the start of the show, we get into a little bit of scheduling and Twitter information, and we'll have Case kind of run through what looks to be a schedule starting to open up a bit more.
It's definitely getting a lot busier with spring sports pretty much fully underway now, especially early season when softball's playing doubleheaders in all these round robin events. But today, you actually have track is split at events this weekend. So half the team at the Music City Challenge in Nashville, Tennessee, the other half in a ACC event at the Tiger Paw Invite in Clemson, South Carolina. Softball, like we mentioned, they're playing a doubleheader today like they did yesterday. They'll take on Southern University in that first game, which is still on schedule as 1:30, but update came out that one will start at 1. Good luck to you if you're hoping to watch the live stream. The idea that they would react quickly to a schedule change seems a bit out there to me based on yesterday.
Skeptical of that. Yeah, we'll see.
Then they're scheduled to play Mizzou. Presumably both teams will play a 1:00 game, and I would imagine that they will look to start the Louisville and Missouri game on an open field whenever they can, as quickly as possible after those games end. The last event on the calendar for today, men's basketball taking on Miami tonight in Coral Gables. That one's on ACC Network, so everybody can watch it. Yay, at 7 p.m. Tomorrow, back to events we would like to see instead of ones we would not like to see. Softball taking on Howard. It looks like that's the last game for them in the. Now I don't recall what it was. The NFCA.
This is the NFCA Leadoff Classic.
Yeah. So their last game in that event scheduled to be against Howard at 10 a.m. I would imagine maybe if they need to move the Missouri game, they could do that to tomorrow as well. That one, again, will be on the same streaming platform. You can find it on GoCard's website. The blogger host that we use for Cardinal Couple can have some weird link issues, so I don't try to put random links to questionable streaming sites on the site when possible. Men's tennis is hosting Michigan State at noon at Bass Pro Tennis Center. Lacrosse is also hosting at noon. They're taking on Colorado. Have to wonder if they traveled together, Colorado and Denver. Probably not, but maybe.
What they used to do, Case, to interject a second here, is they would come to this part of the country when it was their turn to play in this part of the country and make like a 4-game road trip.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Louisville's played those home and aways with them. They opened the season at Denver and Colorado last year, but I think they played both of those in Boulder or both of them in Denver, one of the two. So maybe some sort of relation, even though the University of Denver is not associated with the Colorado system. That's not University of Colorado at Denver. Yeah. Which when I looked up to see what the mascot of the University of Denver was, the Denver Pioneers, the Wikipedia page has very large at the top, not to be confused with University of Colorado at Denver.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
so I don't know. I don't know why they're so linked. But
I know they normally try to get in a game with Cincinnati while they're in the area too on their trips eastward once a year because it's close and they're fairly competitive with what they do and stuff. But other than that, I couldn't tell you. I think that there was a mention somewhere where I was reading about Denver had actually 4 games here before they go back west.
it
So
looks like Colorado played at um, Vanderbilt yesterday.
okay,
So
Vanderbilt and
in the
Ohio
area,
State would,
yeah.
yeah. Uh,
Um, they're actually going to come back across the country later this season to play Ohio State, and they will play Denver on Saturday, the 18th, back in Boulder. So whatever they got, they got some weird things going on.
Indeed.
Other games in Louisville include the Louisville women's basketball team getting back in action after their Thursday game, taking on Clemson, 2 p.m. in the Center. And then men's tennis taking on Tennessee State, who I have to imagine intentionally make their logo look exactly like LSU, right down to the font, looking like the LSU with a tiger over the top. But that one's at 5 p.m. if you just wanted to head down towards campus or towards the greater Old Louisville area and make a whole day out of it. Monday is an off day. Tuesday you have swimming starting the ACC championships. Those are combined event, which is a little unusual. They have been doing the men's team one week and then the women's team the following week, but doing those all at once this year. It's starting on Valentine's Day the 14th and will continue through the Saturday the 18th. Men's basketball takes on Virginia in the Center on Wednesday the 15th at 7 p.m. Women's basketball back in action on ESPN against Notre Dame on Thursday, February 16th at 7 p.m. That one is in South Bend. Friday, softball will be back in action in Atlanta this time in the ACC Big Ten Softball Challenge. They'll take on Illinois on Friday. Baseball will get their season started. They're taking on Bucknell in Jim Patterson Stadium, so that one could be chilly. Women's tennis hosts Austin P at the Bass Red Center at 4 p.m. on Friday, and men's tennis travels to Indiana to take on, or travels to Bloomington to take on Indiana on Friday as well. That gets us through, like, excuse me, I was trying to get there before that sneeze came, but didn't make it. That gets us through the week. Like we've said, pretty busy. But as for Twitter, tweet is at Best Case Scenario. Paulie is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio. And at Jeff McAdams. And Jared is at Mr. Anderson Jared. Daryl, who is out today, is at Daryl Faust 4. And as always, you can check out the right side of the Cardinal Couple website for the Twitter list of UofL women's athletics.
And you know, Jeff, that might give you give you some incentive to stay in Atlanta a couple extra days to watch softball play down there, right?
Oh, yeah, I hadn't actually noticed that and paid attention to it. No, I mean, I'm going to be back Wednesday night, so I don't think
If he was driving, maybe.
realistic.
But,
yeah.
Just spend a day, touring the Masters or something.
Yeah.
Or whatever. The Cardinal will head down there later on in the season. But let's not start with softball just yet. Let's go back to an event today that happened back on Thursday night as the women's basketball team packed up the gift and said, let's go on over to Charlottesville and take on Virginia team that was actually kind of surprising to me this year. And so far in the things that they've done, they were kind of the laughing stock of the ACC last year, but have done considerably better with new coaching and some new things in their program this year. They took on the Cards in front of a pretty decent crowd, I guess you could say, and definitely showed Louisville for, I think, 3 quarters. Hey, we're intending to beat you all. What are you going to do about it? It wasn't until the 4th quarter that the Cards kind of shook off the dust or the rust or whatever. CC Carr got involved in the contest, and This one, Jared, had me a little bit nervous as I watched this one on ACC Network Extra. Louisville just didn't seem engaged, motivated, or having any desire to win this thing until late.
Yeah, you'd think based off the kind of the situation Louisville's in at this point that you can't afford many more losses. That you'd go out and try and put away a team like Virginia early and not worry about it. And like you said, just they didn't seem focused and attentive and into the game at all until maybe a little bit of panic set in there in the fourth quarter, and they're like, "Oh crap, we need to get going and do something." And I don't think the final score really, showed how close the game was, and it felt quite one-sided at one point. And I don't think it was a trap game because it's not like you have a big opponent to look forward to tomorrow because Clemson's also kind of hanging down towards the bottom of the ACC. It's just one of those. In the past, we were playing to win to earn a top seed. Right now, we're playing to win to just try and get a double bye in the ACC tournament and then try and secure a position at all in the NCAA tournament. So you'd think there would be a little more kind of fire under them right now to do well.
You take a look at Virginia's situation coming into this one, where you mentioned the Cards are hoping to continue to keep winning to actually get a bye all the way till Friday in the ACC tournament. Virginia, on the other hand, needs some solid W's to make sure that they don't play on Wednesday, the first day of the tournament, when the bottom six of the conference meet each other. Based on what I saw, go ahead and book your reservations, Hokie fans, or not Hokie fans, but UVA fans for Wednesday, because it looks like you're going to be a Wednesday playing team. But still, Jeff, they came after Louisville strong in this one, and they actually led 16-15 at the end of the first quarter. They were really making things kind of uncomfortable for Louisville because Haley couldn't get untracked, and the pace wasn't really what the Cards liked.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that about Haley. It's watching this game, my mother and I were like, God, Haley just can't buy a shot right now. She's missing everything. She's not playing well. She's not shooting well. And then you look at the stats, and she led the team with 17 points. So somehow she found a way to make some shots go in, but it just really felt like she was really off. And, we were looking at Crystal Carr going, yeah, gosh, she's hitting everything, the basketball goal looks like the side of the barn. And she had 14. Which is certainly a good stat. So Haley struggled. Like, you watch it, you say Haley struggled. She managed to find the points, but she definitely struggled with it. She had 6 turnovers, which is not great for her. So she's got to kind of get that a little bit under control, I think. But a great showing by Virginia to show up in the first quarter and second quarter, really. Outscored us both the first 2 quarters and ended up with a pretty good lead at halftime, but able to claw it back starting in the third quarter. Louisville was, and finishing it off in the fourth. So, credit to them for they're improving their stock. I think anybody would look at Virginia and be able to say that. So, like I said, they've been kind of the bottom dwellers, been kind of the carpet mat of the ACC for a while. So it's good to see some life in their program.
And I got particularly a little worried here, Case, when at the end of this second quarter, where the Cards were actually hanging in there and being fairly competitive at 28-24. And, you're thinking, okay, well, a couple big plays here, we can tie this thing up going into halftime. But on the other hand, Virginia just seemed to kind of dominate us the last couple minutes and went in at halftime up 34-26.
Yeah, and it's actually a little bit worse too because Louisville hit a 3 to cut that lead to 1 point with a Marissa Russell shot just under 4 minutes remaining, and right after that, Louisville gives up the counter 3 by Virginia to stretch it back to 4. They miss a jump shot back on the offensive end. Managed to pull down the offensive rebound, but then have that ball stolen. And like you said, ultimately it kind of unravels from there. Commit some fouls, a couple more turnovers. Really a tough stretch when you look at the play-by-play for Norika Kono. 2 turnovers by her, a foul. She tried to bring it back a little bit with a steal of her own, or 2 fouls, sorry, but then a steal. But like you said, it stretches up to a 32-24 lead, and then back to 34-26 before the end of the half. And, Louisville is not great this season. Nobody is saying that they're in the vying for the number 1 overall seed, a top 4 seed, or a number 1 seed at all, and by some accounts, not even a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. And that doesn't mean that they're not still going to get every team's best effort in ACC play. We've talked about it before. Louisville has been the team to beat for the last few years, and that doesn't change just because they're having a down year. When they're having a down year, everybody's like, okay, this is our opportunity to beat the team to beat. So a 3-10 Virginia team leading by 8 at halftime at home. Louisville definitely was not in a good spot. So to come back out and then win that third quarter by 6 points by doing it defensively was pretty great, given the situation. Louisville gave up only 9 points in that third quarter, which was 7 fewer than they had in either of the previous 2. Then they cut that lead to 2 and set up the fourth quarter where things go a lot better for them. But yeah, at the end of the first half, it was not looking good for our heroes.
And we'll get into this what I consider a really great third quarter run by the Cards in just a second. But Jared, I've got to ask you this. For a great part of this season, Walls was pretty stuck and firm on the starting lineup he was putting out there night after night. A couple games ago, though, he decided he was going to shake things up a little bit, insert some new starters in, bring some former starters off the bench. How's this experiment working for him?
Well, they've won 3 straight games, so if you're superstitious, it's working about as well as you can hope for and expect. But maybe it's just one of those he's mentioned before with different players that some players do better coming off the bench in a game where they just can kind of watch the flow and pace of a game for the first couple opening minutes and then come in, and they tend to have more success. I think maybe that's helped some, but also maybe some of these players who haven't had the output on the offensive and defensive ends that the expectation is there for, maybe just kind of a subtle reminder like, hey, you gotta, when you're out there, you need to, be doing better. And just kind of going back to what Jeff mentioned earlier, the kind of Haley struggles with turnovers. Just can look at some stats recently. In 4 of the last 5 games, she's had more turnovers than made field goals. And in the last 10 games, she's had at least 4 turnovers, if not more. So she's certainly struggled quite a bit. And I think maybe she's forcing too much at this point. I think maybe she just needs to step back and take a breather. And someone like Haley coming off the bench maybe just gives her a minute to relax and focus coming into the game.
And one of the things we have noticed over the last several games is Walls has not hesitated to pull her early in contests and kind of let her sit for a few minutes and watch things. And just kind of say, Haley, you're not really effective for us right now. Sit over here and get yourself into the game mentally. Or sit over here and see what's going on. I'm going to put, name anybody you want, Casa out here or Marissa out here or somebody like that, who's going to come out here and play some ball for me and give me 100%. Let's hope it's a short illness for Haley and she gets over it and can come back to the Haley that we all know and love out there. The third quarter was where Louisville kind of got themselves back into this thing, and they did it in the most interesting way. The Cards were actually down 38-31 halfway through the third quarter, and then proceeded to go on a what I consider remarkable 12-0 run to get back into this thing and actually end up taking the lead. They ended up, trailing to end the quarter, but that 12-0 run was pretty spectacular. I thought, Jeff, that Louisville said, at least for a temporarily period of time here, hey, we're the UofL Cardinals. You think you're going to beat up on us? I don't think so. We're going to put a little Cardinal pride on you.
Yeah, they finally. It really kind of felt like to me like they finally just put it all together towards the end of the game. For the most part, finally looked like the team that we're typically used to seeing. We're a little bit spoiled as fans of women's basketball, I think, but it felt like they finally kind of put it together a little bit. So, kudos to them for doing that and kind of getting that engaged. It it was definitely a how to put it. It was the whole game felt uncomfortable up until that point. They started kind of settling in. Like, okay, I think we've got this now. But man, right up to the very end, I was through most of the game. I was definitely, man, this does not feel comfortable to me. So,
and I think you kind of had to wonder going into that fourth quarter with Louisville had climbed and scratched their way back into being down by only about 2. What kind of fourth quarter were we going to see out of the Cards? Unfortunately, this season we've seen a couple kind of historic fourth quarter collapses. You kind of had to wonder in the back of your mind, is that in the offing here? But fortunately, Jeff Walls made a great decision and looked at CC Carr and he said, hey, go out there and do what you do, score some points. And she was able to come out and get Louisville's first 5 points of the fourth quarter. Put the Cards up by 3. The Cards actually led by 5. UVA wasn't about to give up, and they were going to battle back and get this thing pretty close to within 2 points or so. But Louisville got fortunate. Carr had an incredible fourth quarter. Haley was chipping in a little bit with some things, and I think, Case, what we saw here is the Cards were actually backed up against the wall this time in the fourth quarter and decided to fight back instead of take the bullet.
Yeah, a lot of people like to say there's no such thing as clutch, and I don't disagree with the statement, but there is the opposite, right? There are teams that don't have the fortitude and fold. We've seen that a lot with the men's basketball team for UofL this season, where as soon as things go wrong, it just kind of all falls apart, regardless of, you give up a basket to go down by 2 points instead of the game being tied, and then, the mental capacity to continue in the game just kind of goes out the window. But this women's team has been very inconsistent on that. Like you said, we've seen some interesting fourth quarter collapses, both because they all of a sudden can't hit the broadside of the barn. The body language goes down. They lose that fire that they have had. But I think what's been good for Louisville this season is that they're not dependent on maybe one player's mood, or one energy player to try to pep up the whole team. We've seen Haley Van Lith be very mercurial in her tenure at UofL.
good word.
Easy to be to ride the highs and lows of her emotions. Mikasa Robinson has been that player to try and boost the morale of the whole team when things can get tough. But Mikasa, for all of the attributes and assets that she has and that she brings to the team, is not the type of player that is then also going to drive the team to succeed in the fourth quarter necessarily. And I think that we saw CC really bring the team up both in energy, mood, and then was backing it up with scoring. And so if they can keep that up, that'd be nice instead of struggling in that fourth quarter in other games. But we'll see. I mean, Haley Van Lith, she was 3 for 6 from 2-point range and 5 for 5 from the free throw line. But the shot just wasn't falling from outside, like Jeff mentioned earlier. It looked like she didn't play well, and the turnover certainly didn't help. But if she hits 2 more of her threes, she's 7 for 15 from the field. She's 4 of 9 from 3-point land, which is not nearly as bad, and she's got 23 points, and we're not really talking about it being a bad game. Shooters shoot, and sometimes if the shots don't fall, it can be tough to stay in it mentally, and that's kind of what Louisville's been hanging on, is whether she can stay in it mentally and if the Cards can get more from other players to boost that when she's having a down game like they've been able to over the last couple of games, then they might have a chance to turn the season around.
I guess we could say it's still true that this team does kind of roll on what Haley does, positively or negativity, but maybe not as much as in the past. So seeing some other players step in.
Yeah, I think they're having to learn to not depend upon that much. She's struggled a little bit. They're having to learn to wait a minute. That we've got other players that can contribute. We've got other players that are doing good things, so that they're seeing that they don't have to, which helps reinforce that to kind of get that out of their head. And so,
And it's tough for her too. I mean,
Yeah.
we say this like, oh no, Haley's having a bad game. It's gonna ruin everything. But I mean, she sees that too. She's on
Yeah.
Twitter. She sees when people think that she's not
Sure.
doing well and that she's impacting the whole team, and that is a lot to carry. And so I think that it can all kind of work as one thing. If the team can realize that they can play well if she's having a down game, then she can realize that the team can play well if she's having a down
takes
game, and that
some of
loosens
the
her up.
pressure, off. Yeah.
She still has the little girl appeal, though. At the end of games, whatever corner Haley is staked out to sign autographs in and such is always by far the most popular corner of the arena after the game, as they all want to go down and get an autograph from Haley on something, or just to say hi to her, or maybe have their picture made with her. She is the darling to the younger crowd, and certainly rightfully so, because she has been the kind of player that deserves that type of accolade and respect. And Thursday was just an interesting night overall. I mean, we saw UNC lose again. That surprised me. After we beat them, we figured, okay, we got these guys, but they're going to come back strong. They did not. And Syracuse knocked them off. Miami knocked off Florida State, and I thought Florida State was going to be a prime contender and may still be to be one of the top 4 teams in the conference at the end of the conference regular schedule. Miami, boom, said, take this, Knowles. We're playing pretty good ball down here in the Coral Gables. So it all leads, I guess, tonight.
The Atlantic Chaos Conference still. Yeah.
It is, yeah. Jeff named it correctly, and I'll give you full credit for the name on it, unless you stole it from somebody and didn't tell me. But that is a perfect name for it, the Atlantic Chaos Conference. It leads us to Sunday, where the Cards it has been firmly established now, will play Clemson at 2 o'clock. This was one that kind of went, Jeff Wall saw the original start time and contacted the conference and said, I don't think it's a good idea to have us play at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because there's something else going on that
kind
day.
of a big sporting event going on.
And do you really want to show a KFCM center that has maybe 1,500 people in it? Or would you rather move us up a little bit and put us, let's say, in a noon or a 2 o'clock slot and let them see the hall, let them see the arena with 7,000 to 8,000 or more? What do you think sounds good to you, ACC?
Yeah.
And the ACC amazingly and surprisingly agreed with Walls and changed the game time.
Because they weren't talking about officials, they were talking about procedural things.
That's true.
They can agree with him on things like that.
The only thing we have to do now is to build up Walls' boast and to see that we get the fans out there for this one. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know anything about Clemson. I have not followed them closely this year. I feel kind of bad about that, but I just haven't had time to do it. Is anybody, Jared, have you got anything on this Clemson team to toss out here? What can we expect with them coming in here?
Phone a friend, call Arthur.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Arthur could probably talk for an hour about them, but I'm sure in 50 minutes of it would be negative.
Calling Arthur would certainly help.
At 40 minutes, it would be busting Amanda Butler, because he can't stand her. But anyway,
I thought they had a fairly good start to the season. Their non-conference schedule, I believe, if I remember correctly, they went about 9-3, and then since then they got the ACC play, and conference play has been brutal, 5-9 for them, which has always seemed to kind of be their Achilles heel in recent years, just that they don't know how to win well in conference play. They did just come off of a win against Georgia Tech, but prior to that, I believe they had 4 straight losses in there. One of those being to, actually, I guess those being like North Carolina, Miami, Wake Forest in there. But yeah, they've really struggled and have a lot of work to do. And I don't want to say I agree with Arthur, but I could see where a coaching change for Clemson could happen in the next couple years.
Yeah, he seems to think that she's lost the fan base. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. He's definitely lost her. Or
Yeah, I don't think she's out the door right now, but I do think she's heading that way based off some recent seasons.
is the Clemson team any better than it was 4 or 5 years ago when she first took over? Would be the question. I haven't seen them fighting for any appearances ladder in the ACC tournament lately. They've been a pretty substantial Wednesday first 6 teams to play in the conference. So I don't see that has changed any, but we shall see. Like we mentioned, this one at 2 o'clock. So, hey, you'll have time to go watch this one, have fun, and then get back and warm up what you made for Super Bowl or go to your Super Bowl party and have a great time.
Yeah, try and watch it as I am leaving the airport in Atlanta, getting to my hotel. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that should be fun. Do
Yeah.
you think that anybody will have it on anywhere?
Very fortunate for you that it is not in Atlanta.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Was it ACC Network Extra? I mean, I can always stream it, you know.
This one's on. I would think it would be on ACC proper, right? Because
This
they
one is
asked.
extra, yeah.
It is extra. Okay.
Yep.
Louisville made such the big fight to get it switched to 2 o'clock. I would have figured, but okay.
You're disregarding the fact that Jeff Walls has Super Bowl plans.
Oh well, that's probably true too. Yeah, he's got a big party lined up somewhere, I'm sure.
I don't think he moved it for TV purposes. I just think he moved it with the understanding that if you're having a home game at 6 o'clock, your crowd's going to be much smaller.
Exactly.
If you have an early afternoon, and so I don't think he really cared about TV on this one as much as, hey, let's move it earlier so I can get 7,000 or 8,000 fans down at the KFCM Center.
And plus, he didn't want to wait the extra 4 or 5 hours to sample a Lawrence queso dip. So yeah, that was part of it too, I'm sure.
They've got Florida State versus Virginia Tech on at 2 p.m.
Which on paper doesn't appear to be that bad a game.
Yeah, Louisville, surprisingly not because of their, because of the way they played the season, not the marquee matchup for ACC Network, so they've been bumped.
I'd have a hard time making us the marquee against that other game. The Florida State Virginia Tech game sounds like it could be fairly interesting to me. A fun one to watch. We shall see. Well, let's go ahead and change venues, change the size of the ball, and change how we play the game, and go and talk about a little bit of softball right now, as the Cards are actually playing softball with their opening day of the tournament of the season starting yesterday, as they took on a very, very interesting kind of arrangement on the schedule here. I think, for example, we never see us play Kentucky in the second game of the year, but the folks down at the NFCA Leadoff Classic said, no, you'll play Kentucky on the first day of action, along with South Alabama. To you guys who watch this thing, I think it was fortunate that we got South Alabama first so that we could get a win on the schedule, maybe. And
yeah, Kentucky is quite a good softball team. I mean, they're a good softball team and a very good softball conference in the SEC. So yeah, we've struggled with them for several years. They've had some really good years. We've had a little bit of struggles kind of building up this new program under Holly April, but starting to see some payoff of that. But yeah, it was good to have South Alabama first, get a win. We may be a little while before we're ready to kind of try to play with Kentucky again. But I did not get to watch the Kentucky game. I did watch, like I said, kind of half watched the South Alabama game. It was definitely a defensive battle for most of the game, went into extra innings, and Cards kind of put a 3 spot up on the board in the 8th. and South Alabama was only able to get to one of those back. So for a final score 4-2. So, yeah, it's good first outing. It is a first outing. It's gonna, there's gonna be some time for some settling. It's good to see some great players back and healthy with the team. Easton Lotus and Hannah File and all that. All the injuries we talked about last year. Everybody's back and healthy again. So that's good.
Some pitching, which is kind of grown a little bit in depth and ability on the roster as well. But I found it interesting, Jared, that head coach for the Cards, Holly April, decided to throw Roby against South Alabama on the mound instead of saving her for the Kentucky game. That's an interesting strategy to me. Did they not want the Cats to see Roby just yet? Or was it something, well, we don't want to waste her on them this early in the season because we're going to get beat? What was the thinking here, do you think?
So I think there's a few factors that go into her not playing Roby against Kentucky at all yesterday. Part of that is Roby's been around for a while, and when you've played Kentucky twice each year for several years, they're a little more familiar with her. You're going to see Kentucky again later on in the season, so this could be a chance just for Kentucky not to have a chance to see Roby in this first game and adjust for later on in the year. And then you have to account for the fact that the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, although they say they look at the season evenly, they tend to put more emphasis on your later half of the schedule. So if you do try and steal one from the Cats this year, it's much better to go on and get that win in April against them, especially on their home turf there, because that looks better in the eyes of the selection committee. So I don't blame her for not putting Roby in on this one. I don't think that's any problem at all.
This South Alabama game actually went to an extra inning where the teams were locked in at 1-1 for the remaining 4 innings of regulation, necessitating, of course, a 8th inning. But Louisville, hey, they didn't do too bad in the 8th inning, Jeff. They actually were able to jump in here, do some damage, and take a lead.
Yeah, and they are using the international tiebreaker rule where you start a player on second base in extra innings. And Louisville was able to take advantage of that. I got a quick run that scored, I don't remember who they placed in that 8th inning, but was able to take advantage of it.
Otis.
Okay, yeah, Corby Otis. Okay. Yep. She and Roby, I think, came up to bat and was able to drive her home. I'm trying to remember
Correct,
now.
because you don't get to pick who you put out there. It's
Right.
the previous batter.
Yeah, it's the previous whoever was the previous out.
Yeah, they just got lucky that Otis was the last player out in the 7th.
Yeah.
Because then that puts up one of your
Fairly
speedsters
quick.
and your cleanup hitter on to bring her in.
Yeah.
Which worked.
Yeah, it was a good combo, fortunate combo for us. So yeah, and took advantage of that, and then a couple of runs later on in the inning, and I don't remember exactly the details on how that happened, but it was a good 8th inning for the Cards, and then South Alabama came up to bat. They were the designated home team, so just had to defend a little bit. They were able to score one. That was a foul ball, and it was like, do you let the foul drop and skip the out to prevent a run from scoring? They had a runner on third, or do you go ahead and catch the ball, get the out, and probably let the runner score because you're probably not going to be able to throw it to home fast enough. The player elected to catch the ball, and get the out, which was probably the right choice. So,
if you can put the bat on the ball, which South Alabama could do, especially when they were against, if I can recall the other player's name, Zabala instead of Roby. If you can put the bat on the ball, then if you can't score a runner from second with nobody out, what are you doing out there? How'd you make it to the 8th inning?
Yeah.
So like you said, you catch the foul ball, sac fly. The previous play was a ground out to advance her to third. So yeah, you catch that and she scores, and then like Louisville had it, nobody on and 2 outs with a 2-run lead is fairly comfortable.
Yeah.
One big surprise that we found out in this first game, Jared, is that all April has stuck a freshman behind the plate in catcher Sarah Gordon. A surprising move, maybe, but she certainly came through big in the first game against South Alabama.
Yeah, I guess when you look at the roster last year for who was listed as a catcher as opposed to this year, basically they're all gone. You had three that either graduated or are doing like a super senior year, maybe like closer to home. So your options were pretty limited with a catcher this year, either be a freshman or a transfer, kind of working that route. And maybe we'll see her stay behind the plate all year. I know with Holly April, she's kind of tended to lean more towards depending who's pitching. There may be a different catcher back there, and we've started to see that in collegiate baseball as well. Certain catchers are more comfortable with certain pitchers. So we could see a rotation out there just depending who's in the circle at the time. And that's not really anything that seems to bother me much.
We have also brought in a shortstop from Georgia State in Daisy Hess, who finished her regular career down there and is now playing with us as either a senior or a graduate. I can't remember which, but stepped into shortstop and kind of took that over and looks to be somebody that can do quite well and fill in that gap we have, Jared.
Yeah, kind of sticking on Daisy Hess. I do believe she has 2 years of eligibility remaining just due to the COVID-19 situation. So if she does elect to come back in 2024, she does have that opportunity to do so. But yeah, I got the chance to watch her a little bit in the fall ball. I haven't gotten to watch any spring play yet. But yeah, I mean, she's quick. I think her reflexes at shortstop position are fantastic, kind of something we've needed in recent years with the errors on the infield struggles. And then she's got a great bat. I mean, she's a hard hitter, whether she's finding the gaps or being able to knock one out of the park. So I think she's a great addition to this team.
Careful saying we need her to not err when she, like everyone else yesterday, just about everybody on Louisville's team committed an error yesterday, it feels like. Between the two
I think
games.
that was a more of a contagious thing
she
going
allowed
on yesterday. When
she allowed the first South Alabama run in that first game. Should have been a pretty straightforward double play. She stepped on the bag for the first out, and then just kind of airmailed the throw to first.
Sometimes the spin and throw can be treacherous, but has a sparkling personality too. I got a chance to talk with her a little bit after the media day that softball was at, and just has that kind of, golly, I'm playing in the ACC now. Wow, this is fantastic. I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm actually going to play against Georgia Tech and teams like that. I'm like, welcome to the big time, girl. So good to have her. We'll see how it turns out today, whatever time they decide to get going. And certainly good luck to you if you do decide to watch it on the link that they are providing for the games to be shown. I may try to tune in and see a little bit of it just to see if it's as awful as the guys are saying it is.
From the Twitter video that they shared, the quality seemed okay. I think just the there's no announcing, right, Jeff? So it's just
there was. They had announcers.
They actually had announcers. That's impressive with the 3-field setup. I would have thought that they would just air silent broadcast, but
they did in the first game that I watched. We'll say that. So
the second game, we won't go a whole lot into that. The Cats just kind of jumped on us early and continued to jump on us, and ended up winning this thing in a walk-off fashion. I think a 5-run game.
5-inning. They had a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 5th to make it an 8-run game that ended the game. And just briefly to go back, we talked about the mentality of basketball. I think that part of the reason that you start Taylor Roby in that first game against South Alabama and not in the second game against Kentucky is expectations being what they are. You maybe think you can hang with Kentucky, but you would much rather your ace get out against South Alabama and have a good start. I mean, she gave up 3 hits, 1 unearned run, 2 strikeouts. She was fairly clean, no wild pitches, no walks, no hit batters. So decent there versus throwing her to the Wolves or the Wildcats in this situation. And you start your ace off with a bad mental game, getting dinged up by a rival, and maybe that puts you in a worse spot through the season. If you can save games by losing that one by not starting Taylor Roby, it may be more valuable down the line.
A plausible cause indeed, perhaps. Anyway, the card we'll move on with today depending on the rain showers, those could be playing fairly soon this afternoon. I think if I remember correctly, Louisville has got two today, and then they have one tomorrow. I forgot to put the
Correct.
one Sunday on the master schedule I've got on the right hand side of the site, and I don't know how I forgot that, but I'll be adding that in there just so people know. I didn't realize we were playing Sunday as well. Shame on me. Here on campus, though, yesterday the Cards got the lacrosse season started. From Jared, all considerations, a nice turnout for this one, and Louisville certainly looked like a team that was going to do some wonderful things, at least in the first half of this one, taking on number 9 Denver and jumping out to a 4-0 lead.
Yeah, I think what impressed me just throughout yesterday's match was the defensive performance. I think the defense really struggled in recent years. That's something that Coach Teeter had emphasized in plenty of post-game interviews we've done. And they helped Denver throughout the match to just 5 goals, which you don't see a lot of single-digit scores when it comes to lacrosse, especially a top 10 team like Denver, who dropped 19 on us last year. And
Especially not combined.
Oh, yeah.
combined single digit goals.
Mm.
And there was certainly a different mindset going yesterday with the defense, and it was to run them late in the shot clock when we were on defense. The first 2 possessions, Denver had 1 second on the clock and just kind of had to take a desperation shot, which neither of them were even close. And then the third possession, saved by Sarah Desch. So a great start. I think built some momentum. I mean, even in the fourth quarter, giving up 3 goals, which was a little tough. A couple of those goals did come directly off of the kind of the draw controls and winning those possessions. But if you were to add that up, I mean, that's still only on an average, that would have been 12 goals if they scored 3 each quarter. So not bad. It's just the offensive effort may not have fully been there. I don't think everybody was clicking well on offense. We're kind of missing open lanes to drive at times, which seemed a little odd. And then a lot of our free position shots after fouls just really had difficulty trying to convert those, and that made big difference as the offense just couldn't produce.
Card scoring came from, we'll call it the new, the old, and the fairly familiar in this contest. Nicole Peroni, of course, been around for several years and has been a stalwart on Scott Teeter's team. Was the first one to score for the Cards. We had a Nakazawa score the second goal, but it wasn't Kokoro. No, it was her younger sister, Nakazawa, who got the second goal. And from what you were saying, Jared, obviously somebody who looks good out there on the field as a freshman, and certainly one that's going to play well for us. And then another new name to me, anyway, in Lauren Figgis goal to make it 4-0. So it looks like Teeter's working in some new players to the roster from last year, and certainly some of them doing fairly well. But just your thoughts on what you saw out of the 2 newcomers here?
Yeah, Nakazawa is going to be one of the bigger pieces in the offense. Her, Nicole Peroni, and Hannah Morris were the ones that were really commanding a lot of the attention, whether they had ball or off-ball movement. There was always a defender in their faces, so she's going to be a big factor in that, and I think she has a lot of aggressiveness in her that she's ready to put out there when they're in the inner circle to try and score, or at least draw a foul for their free position shot. Didn't get a chance to see as much of Lauren there because she saw fewer minutes. She had a great break on the goal there to put us up 4-0, and I was kind of hoping we'd continue to capitalize on that. But having some new faces, and especially some freshmen who are already able to get out there, score early, build some confidence, is not only a good sign for this season, but also when you're looking to continue to build a program for future years.
Denver down 4-0, decided, hey, we're number 9 in the country. We're not going to be this embarrassed, and did come back and actually get 5 straight goals to defeat the Cards and ruin Louisville's any chances of a top 10 upset here. But there are some things to be encouraged about in this, as well as Case pointed out in his article, things to be discouraged about. I mean, giving up 5 runs to lose the game in the second half, it's not something you want to see. But to see a 5-4 game in lacrosse, Uh, that's kind of unique because normally, and Jeff, you can agree with me on this, I'm sure, these things are 17-11 or 21-19 or,
Yeah.
14-11 or whatever.
Yeah, not being in double digits is bizarre, and particularly not being in double digits combined is really bizarre. It was a defensive battle clearly, and I think that's maybe some of where Teeter was coming from. That he liked what the defense did for most of the game, but still clearly some issues to be worked out here. But there's hope there. There's potential there to see the team starting to come together.
I'm curious who starts in goal tomorrow. I mean, we saw last year that Adesh and Plek pretty much traded duties, but I don't know how you don't reward the performance that Adesh had in yesterday's game.
Yeah.
7 saves against Denver. That could have very easily gotten out of hand without that performance. It's interesting, to say the least, to see what they'll do.
And we can't really climb into Teeter's mindset on this, I guess, and say, oh, this is what he'll do or something like that. But what you guys are saying makes sense to me. And certainly, I think Teeter is a guy who, once he recognizes he's got some talent at a particular position, is the guy who's kind of against pulling that talent out right away. It looks like we got a goalkeeper, at least this year in Adesh, who's progressed a lot over the off season. And to me, Jared, she looks like somebody who's kind of stepped up and said, I'm putting my claim on this position. Look what I did against the number 9 team in the country. Hey, offense, why couldn't you score some more for me?
Yeah, it's nice to have a goalkeeper in their transitional year from freshman year to sophomore year. Just kind of step up and say, okay, it's time for me to become more of a leader on this role and accept my new role here. Great performance. Certainly encouraging. I know she did allow 5 goals. Lacrosse is a high-scoring affair. There's no reason to hang your head over allowing 5 goals against the number 9 team in the country. So yeah, like Case mentioned, I think you need to reward her and allow her to start against Colorado Sunday and kind of encourage her to keep pushing forward.
As mentioned, the Cards, Colorado tomorrow. Of course, a lot of us will be either at basketball or doing other things, but still, good luck to them out there at the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium in their efforts. And certainly, I hope to be able to get out and cover a few of these games later on in the season. Right now, it kind of seems like basketball is in direct, almost conflict with the lacrosse schedule for the next couple, and with a kind of a, I'd rather go to basketball. I'm not going to beat around the bush at it. Yeah, lacrosse is fine when basketball is not playing.
It's also indoors.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's indoors. The parking's easier for me, and certainly, I've got a pretty decent seat instead of being in a trolley car press box up there where they try to cram it with 80,000 interns. Are you listening? Okay. So, hey, boy, they're looking at the clock here. We're already at the top of the hour and past a little bit. We certainly had a fun discussion on Louisville women's athletics today and these sports, and certainly we encourage you to get out if you get a chance to and enjoy some of the outdoor weather later on this season. Even earlier this season, watch a little lacrosse, go to a little softball. You'll have a great time out there. Win or lose, it's still a fun atmosphere and certainly a chance to see our Cardinals in action. So we as a staff encourage you to go to the ballpark, have a seat, stand up and cheer, have some fun out there with the Cards. Right?
Absolutely.
If you do something bad, don't tell them that we sent you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you're
If
if
you
you're
run
the
out
guy,
on the field, if you run out on the field streaking and then say Cardinal couple, don't do that. We don't want that association.
if you're the guy who chugs the 3 Budweisers in a minute and then decides he wants to bat in the 4th inning,
Yeah,
don't mention us,
yeah.
okay?
Fall
Please.
asleep in the elevator.
That's right.
Right.
Don't fall asleep in the elevator going to the press box either. It's not a good look on you. All right, so let's move on into some final thoughts then, based on that. Why don't you go ahead and start us out, Case?
Yeah, I I've been writing about the track and field a lot, but there was plenty more to write about today. So my final thought will just be to give a little shout out to Um, track and field yesterday in the Tiger Paw invite. Elia Welter second in pole vault. Natalie Lark won the gold medal in the unseeded pole vault. So that's a new name in that event. Maybe we'll see her more in the prime event for those next season, and then a fourth place for Sinclair Savage in the long jump. So keeping up their good performances, the track and field team.
Names that we're familiar with from last season that are certainly doing well again this season. And admittedly, we don't give probably track and field enough coverage here, but this time of year, there are other sports I think that our fan base is a little more interested in us participating in as coverage goes. So
Yeah. They had their January Saturdays, but
yeah,
Yeah.
and but that's how that works. Jared, what do you got on final thoughts?
I'm already enjoying this winter sport to spring sport crossover. Although looking at my schedule for the next about 5 or 6 weekends, sleep just won't happen. But it's certainly rewarding getting out to watch all these different UofL games.
Indeed, it is, and certainly enjoy them while you can, buddy. Enjoy them while you can. Jeff, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see spring sports start. It is, however, always a little bit of a frustration to hear softball in particular, in my case, because I like to go out to softball a lot. I really love going out to Ulmer. And to hear them hyping up, season starting, and then I have to think, well, but yeah, it's going to be 3 weeks until home opener. So don't get me excited like that yet. Because like you said, getting out, Ulmer is a delight to go out and hang out in for a couple hours for a softball game. Absolutely think Echo, get out and enjoy as the weather gets better and warms up a little bit. And I'll be on my way to Atlanta tomorrow, so I won't be able to get to watch anything tomorrow. So frustration there too.
Yeah, definitely so. But the Cards are obviously not in town for the first month or so, playing in a warmer climate. You can't fault them for it, but it does build the anticipation.
No, it makes sense.
Get back home. It's logical. It's something that even the ACC got right. That's hard to believe, isn't it?
I don't know if the ACC had much to do with that, but okay.
Knowing them, they could have said, "Hey, let's play some early season conference games and get the conference started big. Let's start out with Louisville and Pittsburgh to begin the season." Huh? No, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
As for my final thoughts, I certainly am excited about this spring schedule coming in. I'm hoping that I'll be able to do my coverage and provide you with the information such as long as I can. I do have some medical things coming up down in the future that may make it necessary for me to have to back away from the actual website for close to a month or so. It's hard for me to realize that I'm going to have to do this, but I do feel confident the Cardinal couple will be able to continue with the 4 writers that we have here and be able to kind of cover up for Paulie for about a month and take care of things and divide that out properly and do a good job with it. And certainly it'll be interesting for you guys to see it. For me, it's going to be interesting basically taking a look at month of Cardinal athletics and saying, I don't remember that. I wonder what happened there. So, but hopefully the guys will do a good job on it. Other than that, that's about it for today. Let's hope that we have a good finish to the weekend and can get some wins in softball and also in lacrosse. And until we talk to you next time, in case you know something we don't, go Cards.